Hello, and welcome back to me pointing out how stupid every faction in 40k is, starting with the Loyalist Space Marines, in a series I like to call
I'm insulting your army till you remember it's funny. 40k is satire.
Last video was the Dark Angels, and in order of chapter number now, it is the turn of the Speed Freaks. No, not the Orcs. They're far more sensible than these guys. The whitescars. During their video, I took the piss by pointing out how, despite how often the Dark Angels claimed to be tactical geniuses, they really weren't. But I am beginning to think I was wrong, and that they should have been graded on a curve. Compared to the whitescars, the Gloomy Cherubs are genuinely smart. But then, compared to the whitescars, my desk fan is a genius, and it doesn't even work. I didn't want it to be this way. The whitescars aesthetic is unbelievably cool. Genghis Khan Mongolian mounted troops inspired Space Marines, sign me up. And their white and red armour goes surprisingly hard. But, whereas Genghis Khan took over much of the known world, the whitescars would be lucky to take over a table at an empty restaurant. Honestly, one of the original Khan's millions of descendants should be suing Games Workshop for slander. Note that this video contains spoilers of the whitescars omnibus, Masters of the Hunt. Also, hit that subscribe button. It really would help this channel insult more of the things that people love. And if that's not the greatest cause of all time, then I don't know what is. Before I get too nasty, I need to think of something else that's nice to say about the whitescars. At least they don't abandon planets like the Dark Angels do? Oh, wait, nope, they did. I've got nothing. Well, nothing other than the over 4,000 words of notes from their omnibus detailing just how bloody stupid they are. 4,000 words that I somehow have to turn into a semi-coherent script. Their aesthetic really is cool though. Remember, this series focuses on them in the 40k setting. The 30k Legions, and their Primarchs, are a future series. If there's one guy who should rank up there for the stupidest Marine of all time, it is their Master of the Hunt, Captain of the Third Company, and all-round window licker, Captain Corsaro. What level of stupid are we dealing with here? The kind who names their motorbike Moondragon. So roughly a 14-year-old boy level of stupid. And if you've ever had the misfortune to meet a 14-year-old boy, you know they are the specialist level of stupid that exists. The Captain of the Third is always the Master of the Hunt, so I should probably explain what a Master of the Hunt is. They are, essentially, an internet repairman. You call for help, you find out you have to book them centuries in advance, and even then they turn up far, far too late to be of any use to even your grandkids. Their job is to hunt the enemies of the whitescars. The Master of the Hunt, that is, not the internet technician, though the technician would probably do a better job. They have a big old list of enemies, and choose the one to go after next at a secret checking of the to-do list, such as the Alpha Legion Demon Prince Voldorius. His crime? Killing over 1 trillion Imperial citizens. Sounds like the sort of thing that should be hunted down. No problem there. The problem is that the list of the chapter's enemies is like a McFlurry machine. You'll be waiting a very long time to get the brief window that they do anything about it. So it took the whitescars 2,000 years to decide to start hunting him down. 2,000 years after this chap wipes out 125 times the current population of Earth, does anyone think, yeah, let's kill him next? Oh, and it takes over a decade to track him down. That's 10 years of an entire company wandering around the galaxy, asking if anyone had seen the huge blue-green spiky fellow with big wings. If only there was a group of people within the Imperium, an Ordos, if you like, whose job it is to hunt these chaps down and then call in the big guns when needed. Nah, let's waste 10% of one of the first founding chapters doing nothing but asking for directions for 10 years. Great use of resources there, chaps. Of course, finding and killing the target of the hunt isn't enough. No, it has to be done in melee only. Buy the Master of the Hunt and then take his head. Or it doesn't count, or something. Shouldn't the target be killing the bad guy in the most efficient way possible? No wonder their to-do list is so long. But, in all honesty, it's hard to blame the whitescars there. I'd be sending Corsaro out on wild goose chases at every chance I had if I were them, because he's an idiot. To be fair, the whitescars recognise this, and, upon hearing Huron Blackheart, he of having nearly an old Legion-strength warband of Chaos Marines at his beck and call, was going to attack their homeworld, They immediately sent Corsaro off to fight the Tau. One of the only sensible calls they've made as far as I can see. I wouldn't want him as part of my defence either. You see, Corsaro is not just a blithering idiot. He also hasn't yet found a trap he hasn't walked straight into. A demon pretending to be a demon prince just to get him come running so they could collapse the ground into the mouth of a waiting monster? Check. Actually, not just check, but leaving his 100 whitescars to overrun 300 Alpha Marines, thousands of cultists, and a fucking Baneblade. The enemy pretending to be weak to make him charge and then unleash hell from hidden forces? Check. Twice. In the same week. Get your landing zone surrounded before you even get there. Done and done. How this chap is alive is a bloody mystery. Well, no, it's not a mystery. He's still alive because the Raven Guard are babysitting him. Twice they had to pull Corsaro's sorry ass from the fire. Score 2 for the sensible Marines. But it's hard to blame Corsaro too much. The entire chapter can basically be described as speed junkies who don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, don't get me wrong, motorbikes are a cool idea. Machines that make you get where you need to be faster. The downside of motorbikes, that you're open to the elements, is rather mitigated by Space Marines being essentially tanks themselves. You know what isn't a good idea? Using them to charge into thousands of enemies who are willing to throw themselves under your wheels just to slow you down. Guess what plan the whitescars had against frothing at the mouth chaos cultists and the hive mind of the Tyranids with their millions of bugs? Yeah, they slowed to a crawl and used melee. Mongolian cavalry worked so well because, amongst other things, they were excellent shots from their horses, and they would wheel away before melee, whittling down their enemy with bowfire. They did have standard cavalry, but their horseback archers were massive difference makers. The whitescars, on the other hand, charged into melee on them, not only instantly halting their gotta-go-fast mindset, but also painted a giant target on their back. When fighting from a slowly moving motorbike, you're not weaving, you're not dodging, you're just sitting there swinging your chainsword, asking anything with a gun to take 3 shots at you. I'm sure that can never go oh, it did. You're also very much stuck to the planet, so charging an enemy that can fly up and leave you stuck with your thumb up your ass would be a stupid idea. Guess what the whitescars' plan against the Tau crisis suits was? Go on, you'll never guess. Yeah, alright, you guessed right. Thankfully, the Raven Guard were on hand to stop them getting wiped out. Not before they lost 40% of their Marines, though. Twice they managed to get their ass handed to them using this tactic. So, of course, they wanted to go for the hat-trick. Thankfully, the grown-ups in the room, a Catachan commander, a Knight Precept, and a Raven Guard captain, managed to bully them into not getting wiped out by dying to the same way they did twice already. Good job, Master of Being Hunted. This from a chap that is so deluded, he genuinely tells himself that the whitescars would never rely on just one tactic. To be fair, they have 2. Plan A, go fast and hit things. Plan B, see Plan A. Now, remember the Thunder Warriors? The original Proto-Marines that the Emperor killed off as, amongst other issues, they couldn't take orders and tended to fight even amongst themselves. Well, the whitescars are champs again then. Not only does Corsaro ignore orders, such as the barely worth mentioning matter of refusing the order to go back to the whitescars' homeworld to save them from a Legion-strength Chaos Warband, but other entire companies are useless too. 1 month of being on a spaceship, and the entire 4th company is at each other's throats, feuding over old tribe loyalties and other grievances. 1 month is all it takes for a chapter that spends decades wandering through space trying to find where they're meant to be hunting. But let's lay off Corsaro for a moment. Meet Jug Hatton, commander of the equally stupid, the 4th Company, the ones we just mentioned. Tasked with defending a world from a tendril of a shattered Hive Fleet, he immediately sends people out on bikes to round up the human nomads. He does this for the sake of speed. The sake of speed when he has literally got air support that he could send that would take a fraction of the time. But the biker gangs of idiocy have to ride. He understands how the NIDs work. He gets that there is a gene stealer presence on the planet and that it will have infected the locals. So, Plan A is locking all humans together in a giant cave, peppered with loads of tunnels, whilst the whitescars and PDF deal with the NIDs. Can you guess what happens to the humans? If you can, you're immediately smarter than old Joggy Hat here. After fluking his way into killing the Nid Synapse creatures, he's then confused why they aren't all mindless. Even though he knows there's gene stealers, he knows there'll be a matriarch, and he knows they're a Synapse creature. This level of stupidity genuinely must take practice. After the gene stealers have eaten literally all the humans, and the Nids are about to win, the Eldar turn up to save the day, do some time travel shenanigans, and hand the whitescars the dubs. Repeating myself from the Dark Angels video, but why the hell aren't Space Marines worshipping Eldar at this point? They seem to save them far more than the Emperor ever has. At the start of the book, the entire company is bemoaning having to defend a world when they should be hunting for their Primarch. So, spending years in a spaceship rather than months, and getting as far as they have in 10,000 years, which is to say nowhere then. And when they are suddenly in the webway, because of Eldar shenanigans, do they do their duty and hunt where they last saw the Primarch go? Or do they do what the Eldar say, because the Eldar are the true masters of the Space Marines? It's the Eldar option. It's always the Eldar option. Joggy Noggin suffers the same affliction that Corsaro and most other whitescars have, speed junkieism. Not only did he decide to ride 50 Space Marines, so half his force, at thousands of Nids, when it was suggested by one of the few sensible Marines the chapter has that maybe Jogged in the Brain was getting too far ahead of his force, and that it would be better to let the others catch up, his reply was, "Do you think I will?" whilst grinning like an idiot and revving his engine. Again, I state, these Marines are as smart as teenage boys. And not just any teenage boys, but the ones at the back of the class sniffing glue. They even stand around revving their bikes' engines because they like the sound. Like a teenager with baby's first chicken chaser. And they're all like it. Glory hunting speed freaks. Korosai is a land speeder flying marine who says he's going in at it for a big hunt that could snap him in two. Two other marines suggest a sensible course, to which Korosai says, balls to sensible, I want more skulls, and flies in immediately, to his death. And the skulls, oh by the Emperor's grandad balls, the skulls. It's not just the Master of the Hunt that needs to take skulls and hang them back home. They literally all do it. Corsaro's company collected an entire Land Raider's worth of Chaos Cultist heads to hang up back home. That's over 1,000 Chaos Skulls in their home from only one battle. Nurgle would have a field day with this, but I'm pretty sure that any of the Chaos Gods could be able to use this to turn the whitescars to their side in a matter of weeks. I'm serious. Corsaro's stomach even growled appreciatively, their words, at the smell of thousands of rotting heads. Tell me that's not already halfway fallen. They even have demon heads. You know, demons that famously don't die but go back to the warp upon receiving a mortal wound. The stupidity of these guys is so great they're able to defy the established laws of the universe. Of course, their stupidity extends to their so-called encoded battle cant. The orders they give in what is meant to be an indecipherable way so the enemy don't know what they're doing. Except, it's bloody easy. The north wind turns, meaning get yourselves out of there. The wind turns at midnight, meaning we'll get out of there now. With superhuman control of their vocal cords, there should be normal random chatter that inflection gives the real orders, not words. And yet they consider it indecipherable. Let me read you an excerpt. He spoke the words in the whitescars battle cant, which the Alpha Legion would have no knowledge of should they intercept the transmission. The same Alpha Legion he acknowledged being clever and duplicitous, and who he has fought pretty much constantly for a decade. Yeah, if I can work it out, then the enemy who has spent 10,000 years embedded in the Imperium without being shaken loose, and who are renowned experts at this, will have no problems. The Times crossword is about 1,000,000 times harder than this join the dots shit. But apparently, these great minds don't see that. I could go on and on. From the Stormseer who thinks his commander is useless at motivating troops, to the Eldar having to teach the whitescars that dropping a cave roof on Genestealer heads does in fact kill them. From the constant idiocy of refusing to wear helmets, to them being surprised and furious that guard tanks weren't there in support after they intentionally raced ahead like lunatics. But by now, I think you get the point. If Huron doesn't take Trigoris in the first few days of getting there, then he doesn't deserve to be a named character. Who am I kidding? Either the Raven Guard or the Eldar will show up to act as the whitescars' plot armour again. Thanks for watching. The subscribe button is a lonely single in your area. Would you like to meet it? The next video in our series of poking fun at all the factions in 40k is the favourite of the 40k furry community, the Space Wolves. Surely there's only so much bolter porn one mind can take. I didn't think this series through. In the meantime, look both ways when crossing the road. You don't want to get hit by a helmetless idiot motorcyclist rushing towards their own doom.